Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is, I've got a second voice that is now saying the tribulation has started. I'm going to say it again. I've got a second voice saying that the tribulation has started. I've got a couple of other ones, but I'm going to say this. I'm still not ready to say that the tribulation has started. I'm just not ready to say it. I want more confirmation. I'm praying that God will give me more confirmation, and I ask you to pray also, because making a statement saying the tribulation has started, that's big. I mean, this is the last 7 years before Jesus returns. The last 7 years of sin that culminates with Jesus returning in the clouds, using the morning star, which is a light sword coming out of his mouth, and he destroys all of the tares, all of the grapes, all of the sinners. We get our glorified body. He lights the earth on fire. He literally becomes the light of the world, all in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last or the seventh trump. To say that we are 7 years away from that day, and I also have to say, man, praying about it in my prayer closet last night, I got a very strong anointing confirming to me that it has. But again, before I say that the tribulation started, I want you to know that I'm not going to say something that big without serious confirmation. And I've been asking for the Lord to confirm it in some very specific ways. He has not confirmed it in those ways yet. So I'm not ready to say it has started yet, but I'm going to bring you a second voice. Before I get to that second voice, I'm going to give you some inside information I just got. Now, about 3 days ago, I heard that DJT is about to be arrested. Now, that's a question, and these other two sources, in my opinion, are questionable sources. But I just got it from a third very reliable source that I know knows what he's talking about. So, what we're about to see, according to these sources, DJT is about to be arrested. Now, what does that mean? Is that going to bring on the internal revolution to straighten up things? I don't know. I know the internal revolution is coming. Also, what is being said is that we should not panic that this is actually part of the plan. In other words, they allowed the cheating to go on 2 years ago. They allowed it because they had to find out whose hands would get dirty so that they could clean up, all right? And it may be that they're allowing this so that they can expose whose hands get dirty. It's almost like you don't know how many fish are in the pond until you drop a hook in, and then see how many of the fish bite. And this may be a plan to find out how many of the fish are biting. Let's talk about Joseph's Kitchen. I actually cooked this loaf of bread you're seeing here. Takes me about 10 minutes to put the ingredients together, put it into a bread machine, push a button, 2 hours to 20 minutes later, I get a loaf of bread out like that. Now, if you cut that loaf of bread that weighs about 3 pounds, the loaves you get in the store have most of the good stuff removed. The loaves you get in the store are about a pound. That's 3 pounds because it's got the good stuff still in it. Cut that into 14 slices, and if I eat a slice in the morning and the afternoon, I'm satisfied. So on that basis, one loaf can sustain, I didn't say it's everything we want, can sustain one person for a week. Based upon that, it'll get you excellent nutrition. It tastes good, long storage life, 10 minutes to combine the ingredients, 2 hours, 20 minutes to make it. Other wheat that you order arrives in paper bags, which means bugs, rice, humidity can get a hold of it and ruin it. But at Joseph's Kitchen, they send it out in 100 mil thick buckets. Gives you long shelf life. It's stackable. It's nitrogen infuses that hopefully gives it much longer shelf life, kills bugs and things like that. Easily resealable, keep in a climate-controlled area. And they have it in stock. This is an actual picture of part of the warehouse. Here's another picture of these. Actually, each one of those boxes holds 2,500 pounds of wheat. And I think they've got 54 of those boxes, a bunch of them. So Joseph's Kitchen can ship it to you right now. You go to most of these places, they say out of stock. So here's what you want to do. Everybody needs to get a machine package. These are the things that you need to grind the wheat berries. Put them into a grinder. 30 seconds later, you have flour. You put that into the bread machine along with 6 other ingredients. Push about 2 hours, 20 minutes later, you have a nice hot loaf of whole wheat bread. Then you have to decide how much food you want. You want food 2 people 1 year, 4 people 1 year, 6 people 1 year. And if you want to make certain you have it when the electricity goes down, you can also get yourself a solar generator, all at josephskitchen.com. josephskitchen.com. This is the second confirming voice is Terry Bennett. Now, do I consider him reliable? Yes, I do. Is this considered a reliable source? Yes, it is. Am I ready to say tribulation started? No, I'm not. I've been saying it's very, very close. But again, that's a very big statement, and I'm not going to make that statement easily. But when I make the statement, when I say I believe the tribulation started, you're going to be able to take it to the bank. So anyway, let's go on. Terry Bennett, 10/23/2022, as in this past Sunday. So he stood up before his congregation. He said this, and I have taken these edited parts out of it to bring you just the nuts and bolts of what you need. So he says, I was waiting on the Lord when I got this message. He says, I put my hope in his word. I wait for the Lord until the watchman for the morning. That's where I want my heart to be. That's where it needs to be. That's where it has to be. More than watchman for the morning, waiting. Psalm 123 says, I've calmed and quieted my soul like a weaned child. With its mother, my soul is like a weaned child. That's where I need to be with him. Inwardly speaking, in that relationship, it ain't just for nothing. Everything by prayer and supplication, waiting on the Lord. So that's what he was doing. He was sitting calm, praying, and waiting on the Lord. And the Lord spoke. So he says on October the 5th of 2022. Now, why is that important? Because October 5th is the Feast of Atonement, or Yom Kippur. On October 5th, 2022, at 8:45 that morning, Gabriel appeared to him. He began to blow a shofar in my presence and declares, it is time. The first seal has been broken. Stan, you said many times that the thing that starts the tribulation is when the first seal is broken. Yes, and I do believe that. And I've got 2 reliable voices that are saying the tribulation started. But again, I want more confirmation first. It is time. The first seal has been broken, he says. He speaks, it is just like he did April the 2nd, when he came to me and stood beside me and told me that in real time, Revelation chapter 5, is now occurring in heaven. When he said that, I was able to see the angel proclaiming who is worthy to take the book. In case you're not familiar with that, I'd recommend you go read chapter 5 of Revelation. It is my favorite chapter of the entire Bible. I love chapter 5. I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof? No man in heaven nor on the earth, neither under the earth, where earth was able to open the book, neither look thereon. They couldn't even look at the book. And what much, because no man's found worthy to open and read the book, neither to look thereon. One of the elders said unto me, weep not, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the 7 seals thereof. Meaning, nothing, no one is worthy. No one is pure and clean like Jesus. No one else, being clean, was crucified. So, he and he alone is worthy to bring judgment on the earth. He's talking about opening the 7-sealed book that starts the tribulation. No one else is capable of bringing judgment on the earth but Jesus. So he goes on to say, on October the 5th, it is the Feast of Atonement, or Yom Kippur. Gabriel comes and blows the shofar and says, it's time. Then I see the Son of God has broken the first seal. The rider on the white horse is now going forth. The nations have been weighed in the balances and found wanting, Daniel 5:27. I felt prompted to look up the date, the very date the hand appeared and wrote on the wall with Nebuchadnezzar. He said, according to what I found, the date is October the 12th of 539 BC, near the Feast of Atonement. Yom Kippur concludes 10 days of national repentance for Israel so they can be accepted. So he's saying that the tribulation started on October the 5th of 2022, Yom Kippur, or the Feast of Atonement. Now, I've said many times, I believe that the tribulation starts on the Feast of Trumpets. But that's only 10 days away, and I said that because that's when Jesus returns. And all of the judgment is not necessarily finished on the Feast of Trumpets. 10 days later, on the Feast of Atonement, all of the judgment is completed. Because on the Feast of Atonement is when the dead, I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were open. Another book was opened, which is the book of life, and the dead were judged out of those things written in the books according to their works. So the very last judgment is Yom Kippur, or the Feast of Atonement. So it could very well be that the tribulation did start. I'm not saying it is yet. Could very well be that the tribulation did start on the Feast of Atonement, because the final judgment would conclude on the Feast of Atonement 7 years later, or 2,520 days later, or time times the dividing of time twice. Anyway, let's go on. I was told very directly that the nations have been weighed in the balance and found lacking, unacceptable. Gabriel says Europe will be strengthened. Russia will be weakened. America will be weakened, and the Asian nations will form an alliance to be strengthened. Well, that's BRICS. They have formed it. They're in the form of making it stronger. Great turmoil will come to Israel and Russia. Well, Russia's arrived, and there's not peace in Israel like there should be. And what begins in peace will end in utter destruction. 1 Thessalonians 5:3, we're all familiar with it. For when they shall say peace and safety, sudden destruction shall come upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. The next day, October the 6th, the headline reads, Europe's leaders gather in Prague, but Russia isn't invited. He says the French President Emmanuel Macron, who I believe, he says, at least is an Antichrist figure, but I believe it's stronger than that. So he did not say that he believes Emmanuel Macron is the Antichrist. He came as close to saying it as you can say it without saying it, but he did not say that he believes Emmanuel Macron is the Antichrist. He goes on to say, I was shown his face in 2001 by Gabriel. Then, 2001 December, and this is backing up. Gabriel tells me over 4 days, not all in one day, but he says, keep your eyes on 4 nations. Greece is going to want another Alexander the Great. Italy is going to want another emperor. Spain is going to want a queen. And France is going to want a Napoleon. When he said France, a face, Emmanuel Macron, came up right in front of me. I could see it plain and clear. I knew this man is the Napoleon to which Gabriel had just referred. Then the scene changed. Then I saw the Pope declare Macron to be God on earth in Europe. When he said that, millions of Catholics rose up and said, no, he isn't God on earth, and the bloodletting began. In other words, that's when they started killing Christians. Then the scene changed again. Then I saw a motorcade of black cars, with one being all white. I was again shown the face of Emmanuel Macron as his car, now listen, this is important, as his car was coming into Jerusalem. They were throwing branches in front of his motorcade, saying, Blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord, openly worshiping this France leader as God. Now, is that saying that tribulation started? Well, it's coming real close to it. 2 voices say it has. Let's go on, though. Emmanuel Macron has directly referred to himself as Napoleon and also refers to himself as Jupiter. When I saw him, I did not see him as a young man that he was at the time. I saw him as he is today, 44 years of age. So he says, brothers and sisters in Europe, in northern African nations, in the Middle Eastern nations, parts of Asia, what was the old Roman Empire? There are 3 time frames with God, he says. There is the time frame of wait. There's the time frame of now. And there's the time frame of too late. Now, this is important. I'm going to read that again because if you were doing something else, you need to stop doing it. You need to listen. He says there's 3 time frames with God. There's the time frame of wait. In other words, don't do this right now. There's the other time frame of now. Do it now. Take a step now. Do whatever you're going to have. Do it new. Do it now. There's the time frame of you're too late. You missed the plane. You missed the train. You missed your opportunity. Then the Lord told me to say to our brothers and sisters in Europe, to whom he is speaking about to relocate. Now, he's not saying everybody. He's saying if you live in Europe, and if the Lord has been speaking to your heart to relocate, to move, he's saying the time is now to do it. The time is now movement. When you can do that movement is about to end, and it will be too late. He's saying, thus saith the Lord, if you live in Europe, he's saying, and if the Lord has spoken to your heart to move, get after it. Too late meaning this. You may not be able to get out with anything other than the shirt on your back, so to speak. You will flee, and you may not be able to get out at all. And you may lose your life. If God has told you to stay, then please ask him directly, because it will not be easy to get out. If you can get out now. If you live in Europe, that's what he's saying. Let me speak even more directly to believers in France. Get out of France. Get out now. Get out of Greece. Get out of Italy. Get out of Spain. Get out. If at all possible, get out. Now you're saying, this can't be the Lord, Terry. It's absolutely the Lord, I say. This is what Terry said. I've been waiting for many years, knowing this day would come, but it's all according to God's timing, not my own. Before it's too late, get out, Europeans. Remember what happened in Nazi Germany? Prophets of those days spoke and warned the people of God to get out of Germany, but few listened. Prophets spoke and warned the Jewish people, get out of Germany, get out, but few listened. The borders were closed, the bloodletting began. He's saying, thus saith the Lord. And let me also say, I don't care where you live. I don't care where you live. If God has been speaking to your heart to move, I think according to what Terry is saying, he's saying get after it. Now, about me personally, I do not feel led to move out to the woods someplace. I feel led to hunker down right where I've been living for 18 years. A lot of people want to move to the hills, but I have, on, 4 or 5 different prophetic words from other people said that the cities will become cities of refuge. And I live in Texas. I live in the DFW area, and the people around me, for the most part, are all Christians. And I think it's a pretty good place to try to survive the trouble coming. It's who you live around. Let's go on, though. Today, there are states within the United States that you will need to leave. You're not going to want to be in that state. If the Lord has been speaking to you, I'll say it a third time. If the Lord has been speaking to you, he's not saying everybody should move. If the Lord has been speaking to you about relocating out of the state, or I'm going to say any place, if God has been speaking to you about moving, he's saying now's the time to do it. Now, he's not been speaking to my heart about moving. Now is your moment before it's too late. I am aware, as I should be, of what the breaking of the first seal of the rider of the white horse means, that the red horse is coming next. I was told some time ago the first 4 seals will be broken in fairly quick succession, and I have been saying that. I even wrote it in my book. I believe that the first seals, at least the first 3, are going to be broken almost instantaneously. Within like 2 weeks, they're going to be broken. Will be broken in fairly quick succession. I'm saying war. War is coming. Something much larger than the Russian-Ukraine is on the horizon. I'm aware, as I should be, that Ukraine is the breadbasket for Europe and has been for many years. To control that area is to control much of the food supply. Hitler took over Ukraine. The Kaisers tried to take it over before that. Trouble is brewing in the nations. Things are not getting better. If we're serving the Lord, things are not going to get better. Prophet Leslie said the same thing. If you think that things are going to return to normal, she said, not going to happen. We're never going back to normal again. See, yes, I agree. There are a lot of things saying that, yes, the tribulation, if it hasn't started, it's real close. I think it would be wise to assume it has started rather than to think, oh, no, it's somewhere over the horizon out there. I'm not going to see it in my lifetime. It's not coming in the next 20 or 30 years. I've heard people say that. Well, I think that's a mistake. Gabriel said concerning the breaking of the first seal, this is the end of God's beginning. Now is the beginning of the end. Now is the beginning of the end. I'll say it a third time. Now is the beginning of the end. He's saying the tribulation started. Gabriel said, as there are cities of refuge, there are also cities marked for destruction. I'll say that again. As there are cities of refuge, there are also cities marked for destruction. Let me say something else. I'm impressed the Lord right now to just stop and say, I know. You folks that don't want to hear me talk about that, you click away. But I'm going to say clicking away right now, I think it'd be a mistake. I think that God has started Joseph's Kitchen to give people a cheap way to get food for an emergency. Most of you other people out there, most of your long-term storage food, your freeze-dried storage food, all that sort of stuff, you're talking $9,000 or $10,000 to feed one person for a year. At Joseph's Kitchen, they show you how to do it for, in the ballpark, around $1,000 a person. josephskitchen.com. What you do, everybody got to get a machine package, all right? Go there. It'll show you a machine package. Those are the utensils that you need to make the bread. Then you decide how much food you want. Food for 2 people 1 year, 4 people 1 year, 6 people 1 year. And I'm even going to say, even Jesus said bread alone, man should not live by bread alone. So what they offer is not everything a person needs to survive. There's not one food that a person could eat their whole lifetime and survive. Okay, we need to have multiple different kinds of food. But bread, wheat, probably comes the closest. I mean, after all, wheat is what fed the world for 7 years during the Pharaoh and Joseph famine. Let's go back. So he says, Gabriel said, there are cities of refuge and there are also cities marked for destruction. I'm saying get yourself prepared. Get yourself a Berkey water filter, prophecyclub.com. Get yourself some gold and silver at Cornerstone assetmetals.com. Get yourself an EMP Shield.com device to because these suitcase nukes may be really close. But let's go on. He says, if I lived in Miami area, I would get out. Get out, he says. If I lived in New York City, I would get out. If I lived in Boston, Massachusetts, I would get out. If I lived in Chicago, Illinois, I would get out. If I lived in St. Louis, Missouri, I would get out. If I lived in Memphis, Tennessee, I would get out. If I lived in New Orleans, Louisiana, I would get out. If I lived in Madison, Wisconsin, I would get out. If I lived in Seattle, Washington, I would get out. If I lived in Portland, Oregon, I would get out. If I lived in San Francisco, California, I would get out. If I lived in Los Angeles, California, I would get out. And this is the 13th city. He says, if I lived in Washington, D.C., I would get out. If you believe Terry Bennett is hearing from God, and I do, if you live in one of those cities, then I think it's high time for you to probably do some praying and fasting and really seek the Lord and just ask him, Lord, show me what to do. Show me, do I need to move? Do I need to move? Ask him. He'll show you. He'll show you. There are cities of judgment. Nashville, Tennessee is one of them. Atlanta, Georgia is another. Then there are cities of destruction, and there is a difference. If you do not believe these cities are going to come under judgment, then read chapter 16 of Revelation. 12 cities destined for destruction. Let me read them again. Miami, New York, Boston, Chicago, Seattle, St. Louis, Memphis, New Orleans, Madison, Wisconsin, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. So, Terry Saga with CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. What is going on in the world? Why should they call CornerstoneAssetMetals.com today?
Well, we are having an unusual strength in the dollar. So what that's doing is bringing down the precious metal prices, which is a great buying opportunity. But we have to understand the strength is because the European currency is collapsing below parity and it's getting worse. But what we have to watch indication of is the dollar's not going to absolutely collapse until the euro collapses. So if we see the European currency completely collapse, we got 2 weeks to get our money out of the banking system in the United States. But right now, it's not, but it is so weak. Take advantage of it because the dollar strength is incredibly artificial.
CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. Give them a call. Start talking to them today. It didn't cost anything to call. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. 888-747-3309. 888-747-3309. Next is, I'll send you to EMPShield.com. If you use the promo word prophecy, you get a $50 discount. What is that? Well, it looks like this. This is the one that goes into a car, okay? And you put the red wire to the red side of the battery, you put the black wire to the black side of the battery, and the green one attaches to the body of the car. Then you peel it off right back here. Just peel that off, stick it inside of the engine compartment of your car. And the whole point is when the electricity goes off or when some kind of a suitcase or nuclear device goes off, this is supposed to be able to stop that device from destroying every computer chip in your car. Because if every computer chip is destroyed in your car these days, you couldn't possibly replace them all. Throw the car away. So, EMPShield.com, promo code prophecy. Now let's talk about water. Cornerstone had a dream, and he said he saw headlines that said, entire communities poisoned through water supply. Reporters were telling people to drink nothing but bottled water or water they knew was not connected to the local water supply. It was affecting both larger and smaller communities. Boiling water was not an effective way of making any water safe. Leslie Johnson had a prophecy back in 2011. She says, the Lord says there's going to be something put into the water supply in many cities of the nation. People will begin to get sick, some will die. Get a good, reliable water filter. You will not be able to trust the tap water or the bottled water. You must get something to filter the water you are going to need. That's back in 2011. So if you want it, we suggest you go to prophecyclub.com. You click right here where it says Berkeys. This is what it looks like. Currently, all Berkeys are in stock. The one I have is this guy right here. It's the Crown. It has 8 filters. I recommend you get as much as you can afford and also recommend you get some extra filters. That's at prophecyclub.com.